Jesus said, "Take away the stone." "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." The theme of the dead returning to life has appeared across countless legends and folktales throughout cultures and history. Among the impossible events of human imagination, resurrection stands out as the most dramatic, often becoming the perfect climax to a story. What's intriguing is that stories of the dead coming back to life are not confined to ancient myths. From corpses that suddenly gasped for air and demanded food, despite having been placed in coffins, to chilling tales of the dead pounding on the front door in the middle of the night after being buried in cemeteries. Reports of such phenomena have persisted throughout history. In the early 1900s, when the medical community noted the number of such accounts, they dismissed them as mere illusions or urban legends born from delusion. But by the mid-20th century, after 2 world wars where countless lives brushed against the boundary of death, credible reports began to surface. People who were certainly dead were seen to come back to life. Doctors' cold skepticism turned into cautious curiosity. Perhaps there was something unknown at play. A patient declared dead during CPR suddenly showed signs of life, with measurable pulse and blood pressure returning. No additional resuscitation or medical intervention had been performed. The patient revived spontaneously. By 1982, the first related cases were formally documented in a medical journal. When The Lancet, one of the oldest and most prestigious journals in medicine, published a report of the dead returning to life, research into the phenomenon accelerated. Yet its frequency was so rare, so elusive, that meaningful progress was nearly impossible. It wasn't until 1993, over a decade later, that anesthesiologist Jack G. Bray published a case report, finally giving the phenomenon a name. A bizarre event defying medical explanation, closer to myth than reality. It was called the Lazarus phenomenon, named after the biblical man who rose from the dead. Though it may sound absurd, Lazarus syndrome remains unexplained to this day. The only certainty is that the sporadic cases of spontaneous revival prove the phenomenon is real. Let's look at some chilling examples. In 2001, a 65-year-old Japanese man was found in a nursing home with no heartbeat or breathing. Paramedics and staff attempted resuscitation with defibrillation and drugs. But after 35 minutes of cardiac arrest, death was declared. 20 minutes later, police arriving for autopsy preparations found the man moving in the morgue. He survived for 4 more days before passing away again. In 2014 in Mississippi, 78-year-old Walter Williams was pronounced dead late at night. A veteran coroner confirmed the absence of heartbeat and breathing. His body was zipped into a transport bag and taken to the funeral home embalming room. Just as embalming began, Walter's legs began to move inside the bag. His heart and lungs started again. He recovered enough to talk with his family, but died 15 days later. On April 14, 2011, in Malaysia, a 65-year-old man was found at home with no heartbeat or breathing. He was rushed to the ER. Doctors performed CPR for 45 minutes, but his heart never restarted. Declared dead, life support was removed with the family's consent, and cremation arrangements were made. 2.5 hours later, the man began breathing again and his heart restarted. Though he seemed to recover, he died 3 weeks later. From such accounts, the medical community has identified 2 key traits of Lazarus syndrome. First, revival usually occurs minutes to hours after confirmed death. Second, most revived patients die again within hours to weeks, with only rare cases surviving long-term. These cases suggest that Lazarus syndrome is not simply the result of primitive medical error. In fact, traditions like placing bells inside Victorian coffins or extending funeral periods to 5 days in some cultures may have been ways to account for the possibility of the dead returning. Even ancient stories of the dead rising may not have been mere misdiagnoses. Some could well have been real cases of the Lazarus phenomenon. Still, all of this remains speculation. Systematic research is scarce, and the phenomenon remains a medical enigma. There are, however, related mysterious conditions. In East Asia, the idiom hui guang fanja, meaning a flash of light before sunset, describes a phenomenon where the dying suddenly regain strength and clarity, arranging their affairs before death. This strange event, like Lazarus syndrome, remains unexplained. Today, it is better known in medicine as terminal lucidity. Patients with severe neurological conditions, stroke, brain tumors, meningitis, Parkinson's, or even Alzheimer's, suddenly recover lost abilities, speaking fluently or thinking clearly, just hours before death. Research has shown that more than 94% of patients who experience terminal lucidity die within a week, and 43% of them die within 24 hours. Some researchers theorize that both terminal lucidity and Lazarus syndrome may represent a final protocol of the body, a last surge of energy where the body desperately reactivates itself before irreversible collapse. Others suggest something beyond biology, that perhaps the phenomenon lies in the realm of the soul. So, what is the true cause of Lazarus syndrome? Could it be that humanity carries within itself a hidden power to return from death? Or is there an unknown force, a mystery beyond science, intervening at the boundary between life and death? Since the first official report about Lazarus phenomenon in 1982, at least 38 cases have been documented worldwide. This was Midnight Journey.